The small transport ship shuddered as it pushed through the dense asteroid field. Inside, Lyra held her daughter Mary close, her protective outer shell wrapping around the small child. Their antennae touched briefly, sharing comfort in the silent darkness of space. The ship's warning lights cast an eerie red glow across their chitinous faces. They had been running for 3 days now, ever since the Dominion forces had broken through the last defenses of their homeworld. The memory was still fresh in Lyra's mind. The great libraries burning, the knowledge vaults being raided, and her fellow archivists being dragged away in chains. "Mother, are they still following us?" Mary's voice was barely a whisper, her small form trembling against Lyra's thorax. "No, little one. The asteroid field is hiding us well," Lyra replied, though she kept her eyes fixed on the rear sensors. Their species, the Keepers, had always been peaceful. Their greatest strength lay in their unique minds, able to process and store vast amounts of information within their neural networks. It was this very gift that had drawn the Dominion's attention. The ship's computer beeped softly, indicating their remaining fuel reserves. They had enough for perhaps 2 more jumps, 3 if they powered down all non-essential systems. Lyra moved to the control panel, her 4-fingered hands dancing across the holographic interface with practiced ease. Behind them, their homeworld was now just another conquered planet in the Dominion's ever-growing empire. The Keepers had refused to share their neural mapping technology, knowing the Dominion would use it to create more efficient slave soldiers. That refusal had cost them everything. Mary moved to the viewport, her young eyes reflecting the distant stars. At just 8 cycles old, she was already showing signs of the exceptional memory capacity that made their species so unique. "Mother, I've been calculating our trajectory based on the stellar patterns. We're heading into unexplored space." Lyra nodded, proud of her daughter's observation skills, even in this dire situation. "Yes, the Dominion will expect us to flee toward the trading worlds. Going into unknown space gives us a better chance." The ship lurched suddenly, and a new alarm joined the chorus of warnings. The main drive was starting to fail, pushed too hard during their desperate escape. Lyra's antenna twitched in concern as she read the damage reports. "Mother," Mary's voice carried a note of fear. "It's all right," Lyra assured her, though she knew their situation was becoming critical. "Remember what the first Keeper taught us. Knowledge survives through adaptation." Mary nodded, reciting one of their people's core teachings. It was a bitter irony. Their civilization had preserved knowledge for countless generations, yet now all that remained of their vast archives were the memories stored within the survivors scattered across the stars. The ship's scanner pinged, detecting something ahead. Lyra's heart raced as she checked the readings. A solar system, previously unmarked in their charts, lay before them. The 3rd planet showed signs of civilization. Artificial satellites, radio signals, and the unmistakable evidence of a spacefaring species. As Lyra processed this information, another alarm blared. The main drive gave a final sputter and died. They were now drifting, their momentum carrying them toward this unknown system. "What do we do now?" Mary asked, moving back to her mother's side. Lyra's antenna drooped slightly as she made the hardest decision of her life. They would have to risk contact with this unknown species. Their ship couldn't be repaired without help, and they couldn't survive long on their remaining supplies. "We're going to ask for help," Lyra said, beginning to compose a distress signal in the universal trade language. "Sometimes survival means taking chances we'd rather not take." As she worked, Mary studied the incoming data about the 3rd planet. "Mother, these readings. This is what the archives called a death world. High gravity, extreme temperature variations, aggressive biodiversity, and home to a species that survived it all," Lyra added, sending out their distress call. "Perhaps that's exactly the kind of help we need right now." The signal went out into the void, carrying their hopes with it. Neither mother nor daughter knew that this desperate gamble would not only save their lives, but change the fate of countless species across the galaxy. for they had just made first contact with humanity, and nothing in the universe would ever be the same. The control panel flickered as their ship drifted closer to the third planet. Life support systems were failing one by one, and the temperature inside the cabin had begun to drop. Lyra wrapped her daughter in thermal blankets, trying to keep Mary's small body warm. "Mother, look." Mary pointed at their display screen with one of her delicate appendages. A new signal had appeared, stronger than the background noise they'd been detecting. Someone had heard their distress call. The response came in clear, though in a language their translation matrix took several moments to process. "Unknown vessel, this is UES Defender. We've received your distress signal. Please respond." Lyra's antenna trembled as she activated their communications array. "This is Keeper Vessel A-115. We are refugees. Our drive system has failed. We have a child aboard." She paused, knowing the next words could determine their fate. "We request sanctuary." There was a long pause, during which Lyra could hear Mary's breathing getting slower, a sign that the cold was affecting her. Finally, the human ship responded. "Keeper Vessel, maintain your current trajectory. We're moving to assist. Stand by for emergency docking." Through the viewport, they saw the human ship approach. It was unlike anything in their archives. Blocky and utilitarian, with massive engines that glowed blue against the black of space. The vessel was huge compared to their small transport, its hull marked with strange symbols and what appeared to be battle scars. "They're warriors," Mary whispered, her scientific mind already analyzing the ship's design. "The hull plating suggests regular meteoroid impacts. They've adapted to survive in hostile conditions." Lyra nodded, her fears growing. They had escaped one militant species only to encounter another, but they had no choice. Their oxygen levels were critically low. The human ship extended a docking tube, connecting with their airlock with a solid thunk. Their ship's systems registered a successful seal, and warmth began flowing through the connection. Mary's antenna perked up at the change in temperature. "Warning," their ship's computer announced. "Unknown atmospheric composition detected." Before Lyra could respond, a voice came through their comm system. "Keeper Vessel, we're reading your atmosphere requirements. We've adjusted our airlock mixture to match your needs. Please proceed through the docking tube when ready." Lyra was surprised. These humans had thought to check their atmospheric needs first, a level of consideration she hadn't expected from a Death World species. Supporting Mary, who was still weak from the cold, they made their way to the airlock. The door slid open with a hiss, revealing a brightly lit tunnel. At the far end, they could see several figures waiting. The humans were terrifying to behold. Tall bipedal forms wrapped in hard armor, with clear faceplates showing pink-skinned faces and forward-facing predator eyes. But their posture wasn't aggressive. If anything, they seemed careful to appear non-threatening. One human stepped forward, removing their helmet. It was clear from their markings they held authority. "I'm Captain Lee of the UES Defender. Welcome aboard." The translation came through clearly, the human's voice surprisingly gentle. Suddenly, warning klaxons blared through both ships. A new voice, urgent and professional, called out, "Captain, 3 Dominion warships just dropped out of FTL. They're demanding we hand over the refugees." Lyra's heart sank. They had found them. She pulled Mary closer, preparing for the worst. To her surprise, the human captain's expression didn't change to fear. Instead, there was something else, something that made Lyra's scientific mind pause in fascination. The human was smiling. "Well," Captain Lee said, securing their helmet back in place, "I guess we'll have to disappoint them." They turned to another human. "Get our guests to medical. Warm them up and make sure they're comfortable." The captain faced Lyra directly. "Don't worry. You're under our protection now." As they were led away by a medical team, Lyra heard the captain giving orders. "Battle stations. Let's show these Dominion folks why it's a bad idea to hunt refugees in human space." For the first time since their escape began, Lyra felt something new. The medical bay of the UES Defender hummed with activity as Lyra and Mary watched the battle preparations through a large viewing screen. The human doctor had given them warm blankets and something they called hot chocolate, which their systems could safely process. Dominion vessels, this is your final warning. Captain Lee's voice echoed through the ship's comm system. You are in violation of human space. These refugees are under our protection. Withdraw immediately. The Dominion's response was swift and arrogant. Human vessel, you harbor fugitives of the Empire. Your species is unknown to us, and your single ship poses no threat. Surrender them, or face destruction. Mary's antenna twitched as she processed the tactical data scrolling across the screen. Mother, the Dominion ships are Class 4 battlecruisers. Each one could destroy a small moon. A human medic nearby chuckled. Don't worry, little one. The captain knows what they're doing. The first shots came from the Dominion ships. Bright purple energy beams that streaked across space, but instead of hitting the Defender, they seemed to slide off an invisible barrier. Kinetic shields holding at 98%, a crew member reported. Their weapons are having minimal effect. Captain Lee's voice remained calm. Well, since they asked so nicely, weapons target their primary drive systems. Let's show them some Earth hospitality. What happened next made both Lyra and Mary's antenna stand straight up in shock. The human ship's response wasn't the expected energy weapons. Instead, chunks of metal accelerated to impossible speeds tore through space, moving so fast they left trails of plasma in their wake. The first Dominion ship's shields collapsed under the barrage. Their proud purple barriers meant nothing against the simple physics of extremely fast-moving objects. The ship's engines exploded in a brilliant flash, leaving it dead in space. Impossible, Mary whispered, her scientific mind racing to calculate the forces involved. They're using primitive projectile weapons, but the acceleration, the energy requirements. The second Dominion ship tried to flank the Defender, but the human vessel moved with surprising agility for its size. Another volley of hypervelocity rounds shattered the attacker's weapon systems, leaving it spinning helplessly. The third Dominion ship, seeing its companions disabled so easily, began charging its FTL drive to retreat. But before it could escape, the Defender launched something new, small, fast-moving objects that attached themselves to the Dominion vessel's hull. Boarding drones attached, a human officer reported. Control systems successfully compromised. Their ship is locked down. In less than 5 minutes, the mighty Dominion task force had been completely neutralized, not destroyed, but thoroughly defeated by a single human vessel using what they would have considered primitive technology. Captain Lee's voice came through again, this time addressing the disabled Dominion ships. Now then, let's have a civil discussion about refugee rights and territory violations. I'm sure your superiors would be very interested to learn how one primitive human ship handled 3 of your best cruisers. Lyra noticed something fascinating. The humans hadn't destroyed the Dominion ships when they could have. Instead, they had disabled them with surgical precision, minimizing casualties while demonstrating overwhelming superiority. A message flashed across the screen. The Dominion commander requesting terms of surrender. Mother, Mary said, her voice filled with wonder. The archives were wrong about humans. They're not just survivors of a death world. They're protectors. The medical bay door opened, and Captain Lee entered, helmet under one arm. Sorry about the light show. Had to make sure our guests got the message. They smiled at Mary. How's that hot chocolate? It's fascinating, Mary replied. The chemical composition. Speaking of fascinating, the captain said, turning to Lyra, we'd like to know more about these Dominion folks. Seems they'd been causing trouble in this sector for a while. Maybe we can do something about that. Lyra looked at the defeated Dominion ships on the screen, then at her daughter safely sipping the human drink, and made a decision. Perhaps these Death Worlders were exactly what the galaxy needed. 3 days after the battle, Lyra and Mary found themselves aboard Sanctuary Station, humanity's largest space habitat in this sector. The massive rotating structure housed over 50,000 humans, and, to their surprise, several hundred aliens from different species. Mary pressed her face against the observation window, watching ships come and go through the busy docking rings. "Mother, look. That vessel has Rithian markings. I thought they were all enslaved by the Dominion." "Many escaped," said Tom, their human guide. The station security officer had been assigned to help them adjust to life on the station. They started arriving here about 6 months ago. Turns out we're getting quite a reputation as a safe haven. The station's internal gravity was slightly lighter than Earth's, a compromise for the comfort of various species. They walked through wide corridors where humans and aliens mingled freely. Shops displayed goods from dozens of worlds, and the air was filled with the sounds of multiple languages. Their new quarters were spacious by any standard, with atmospheric controls adjusted to match their homeworld's conditions. But what surprised Lyra most was the education center next door. "We have a learning program for refugee children," Tom explained, showing them a classroom where young ones from different species study together. Mary would be welcome to join. "Our teachers are quite good at handling different learning styles." Mary's antenna perked up with interest as she watched a human teacher using holographic displays to explain stellar physics to a mixed group of students. A young Rithian was arguing good-naturedly with a human child about calculation methods. But why? Lyra finally asked the question that had been bothering her. Why go to such lengths for refugees? Tom's expression grew serious. "Because it's right. And practically speaking, every species brings something valuable. Your people's information processing abilities, the Rithians' understanding of quantum mechanics, the Zelli's bioengineering, combined with our, let's say, unique approach to problem solving." He was interrupted by a station-wide announcement. "Attention all residents. The weekly multi-species potluck dinner will begin in the main hall in 1 hour. All are welcome. Please ensure all dishes are properly labeled for compatibility." "You should come," Tom suggested. "It's a good way to meet everyone. Plus, the food's usually interesting. Just don't try the human curry unless you have very robust digestive systems." As they walked to the main hall, Lyra noticed something remarkable. The humans had adapted their station not by creating separate sections for each species, but by making everything accessible to everyone. Doorways were sized for the tallest species, with smaller entrances built in for the shorter ones. Signs used universal symbols alongside multiple languages. The main hall was enormous, its ceiling a transparent dome showing the stars above. Tables of various heights and designs accommodated different body types. The air was filled with the scent of foods from across the galaxy. Mary was quickly invited to join a group of children who were playing some kind of strategy game. Lyra watched in amazement as her daughter began teaching them a keeper memory game, while learning human chess in return. "Your daughter adapts quickly," observed an elderly human woman who introduced herself as Dr. Allen, the station's chief scientist. "We could use her skills in our research division when she's older. We're working on combining keeper memory techniques with human neural interface technology." Lyra's antenna twitched with interest. "To what end?" "Defense, primarily. The Dominion's been quiet since that little skirmish with the Defender, but they'll be back. We're building something new here, not just a refuge, but a community that takes the best from each species." Looking around the hall, Lyra saw the truth of those words. A Rithian engineer was showing human technicians how to improve their shield generators. A group of Zelli medical experts were discussing healing techniques with human doctors. Knowledge was flowing freely, but not under Dominion control, under the protection of humanity's strange, wonderful mix of primitive weapons and advanced ethics. "Welcome home," Dr. Allen said softly, as if reading Lyra's thoughts. "We may be from a death world, but we know how to build life too." The warning sirens woke everyone on Sanctuary Station at 300 hours, station time. Lyra found Mary already at their quarters display screen, her antenna straight with tension. "Dominion ships," Mary reported, her voice steady despite her fear. "A lot of them. The sensors count 30 battlecruisers." The station's AI spoke calmly through the communication system. "Attention all residents. This is not a drill. Please proceed to your designated shelter areas. Combat personnel to battle stations." Lyra and Mary joined the orderly flow of various species heading to the inner sections of the station. There was no panic, just purposeful movement. The humans had drilled everyone for this possibility. "They're not running," Mary observed, watching human civilians moving to support positions instead of shelter areas. Some were helping elderly aliens, others were distributing equipment, and many were heading to what they called emergency response stations. Through the observation windows, they could see the Dominion fleet emerging from FTL, their purple-hulled ships forming an attack pattern. Their formation was perfect, their numbers overwhelming. By all tactical logic, the station should have surrendered immediately. Instead, Captain Lee's voice came over the general channel. "Attention Dominion fleet. You're trespassing in human space again. I see you brought friends this time. Good. Saves us the trouble of hunting you down later." The Dominion commander's response was broadcast station-wide. "Your insolence ends today. Surrender the refugees and your station's technology, or be destroyed. You have 10 minutes to comply." Tom appeared beside them, now wearing battle armor. "Time to show you folks why we called this place Sanctuary." He guided them to a special observation room where other refugee species had gathered. The station's outer rings began to move, revealing weapon ports that had been hidden beneath seemingly decorative panels. But these weren't the simple railguns from the Defender. These were much bigger. "First lesson about humans," Tom explained as they watched. "We like redundancy. Those 30 ships out there, that's their plan A. We've got plans A through Z, and then some." The Dominion ships opened fire first, their energy weapons lighting up space. But instead of hitting the station, their beams struck a series of overlapping shields. Technology improved by Rithian engineers working with human scientists. "Second lesson," Tom continued. "We learn fast, and we share knowledge. Those shields, that's Rithian tech combined with human power generation. Those targeting systems, enhanced by Keeper data processing." The station's response began with a subtle flicker of light. Suddenly, a third of the Dominion fleet found their ships completely powerless. Zeli computer experts, working with human programmers, had created viruses that could penetrate Dominion cybersecurity. "Third lesson," Tom smiled as the station's main weapons powered up. "We fight smart before we fight hard." When the station's weapons finally fired, it wasn't the expected barrage of destruction. Instead, precise shots disabled key systems on the remaining active ships. The entire battle lasted less than 15 minutes. "Final lesson," Tom said, as they watched the Dominion fleet drift helplessly. "We protect our own. All of our own." Mary's antennae were twitching rapidly as she processed what she'd seen. The station's design, it's not just a sanctuary, it's a fortress. Better, Lyra realized. It's both. The humans built a place that could protect and nurture at the same time. The all-clear signal sounded. On the main channel, they could hear Captain Lee addressing the disabled Dominion fleet. "Now then, let's talk about refugee rights again. This time, we'll make sure the message sticks." As the cleanup began, Lyra watched human medical ships move to assist the damaged Dominion vessels. Even in victory, they showed mercy. The archives had been wrong about humans. They weren't just Death World survivors or primitive warriors. They were something far more interesting, a species that had learned to balance strength with compassion. "Mother," Mary said quietly, "I think I understand now. The humans don't just give sanctuary. They teach it." News of Sanctuary Station's victory spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. 1 month after the battle, the station had tripled its refugee population. Lyra found herself working as a coordinator for new arrivals, while Mary had become an unofficial ambassador among the children. "Mother, another ship is requesting entry." Mary called out from her console. She had grown more confident over the past month, her natural keeper abilities enhanced by human education methods. It's a Dominion vessel. But this wasn't an attack. The ship was small, a civilian transport, and heavily damaged. When the docking clamps secured it, the crew emerged with their hands raised. Dominion officers and their families, seeking asylum. "We've heard stories," their commander explained to the Human Council, "about a place where knowledge is shared freely, where species work together instead of conquering each other. We want no more part in the Empire's crimes." Captain Lee, now promoted to station commander, shared a knowing look with Lyra. "Tell us what you know about the Empire's current operations." The information they provided was shocking. The Dominion was fracturing from within. The defeat at Sanctuary Station had sparked rebellion in a dozen conquered systems. The Empire's air of invincibility had been shattered by a single human station. In the following days, representatives from previously neutral species began arriving. The Kilari, masters of faster-than-light technology. The Voss, experts in terraforming. Even the mysterious quantum collective sent observers. "They're not just coming for protection anymore," Tom explained during their weekly security briefing. "They're coming to join something bigger." The humans had transformed the station's main hall into a grand meeting chamber. Representatives from 27 species gathered to discuss what they called the Sanctuary Accords. Lyra sat among them, representing the Keepers. The Dominion rose to power by hoarding knowledge and technology. A human diplomat addressed the gathering. "We propose a different path. Share knowledge, combine strengths, protect each other. Not an empire, but an alliance." Mary watched from an observation platform above, alongside children from a dozen species. They were already living this reality, sharing games and stories, learning each other's languages and cultures. The Kilari representative stood. "Your weapons are primitive by our standards, yet you defeated the Dominion's best ships. How?" "Because we don't just think about technology," Commander Lee replied. "We think about people. Every species here has something unique to offer. Together, we're stronger than any empire." One by one, the representatives voiced their support. The Kilari offered their FTL expertise. The Voss promised to help establish new colony worlds. The Quantum Collective agreed to share their energy manipulation theories. Lyra found herself called to speak. Standing before the gathered species, she remembered fleeing her burning world. "The Keepers have always believed knowledge should be preserved. The humans showed us it should also be shared. We offer our data processing abilities to the Alliance." As she spoke, Mary was teaching a group of children the Keeper memory techniques, while human kids showed them Earth games. Above them, through the hall's transparent dome, ships from dozens of worlds moved in peaceful formation. The Sanctuary Accords were signed that day, not with grand ceremonies or military parades, but with a massive feast where foods, stories, and ideas were shared freely. Later that night, Lyra found Mary at their favorite observation window. "What are you thinking about?" "The humans have a saying," Mary replied, her antenna moving thoughtfully. "A rising tide lifts all boats. By helping others, they made themselves stronger. By sharing knowledge, they gained more than the Dominion ever did by stealing it." Through the window, they watched a former Dominion battlecruiser, now repainted in Alliance colors, conducting joint exercises with human ships. Former enemies learning to work together. The Dominion wanted to rule the galaxy, Lyra observed. The humans just wanted to make it better. "And that," Mary said, "is why they'll succeed where the Dominion failed." 5 years had passed since Lyra and Mary first fled to human space. Sanctuary Station had grown into Sanctuary Hub, a massive complex of interconnected stations and shipyards that served as the heart of the new alliance. Mary, now a young adult, stood before a class of mixed-species students in the station's premier education center. Her antenna moved gracefully as she taught advanced data processing techniques to humans, former Dominion youth, and children from dozens of other species. "Remember," she explained, pointing to the holographic display. Each species thinks differently. Humans process information linearly, but can make incredible intuitive leaps. Keepers store data in complex patterns. By combining these approaches, we become stronger. From the back of the classroom, Lyra watched with pride. Her daughter had grown into exactly what the Alliance needed: a bridge between worlds. The nervous child who had fled their burning homeworld was now a confident teacher. The classroom's window offered a view of their latest project, a massive ship under construction, built with technology from all member species: Keeper data cores, human ingenuity, Kilari FTL drives, and Rithian shields, all working together. Professor Mary, a young human student, raised his hand. "Is it true you were one of the first refugees here?" Mary's antenna twitched in amusement. "Yes, my mother and I arrived when this was just one station. Back then, we thought humans were dangerous death-worlders." The class laughed. "We weren't entirely wrong. Humans are dangerous, but only to those who threaten their friends." The lesson was interrupted by a station-wide announcement. "Attention all residents. The Liberation Fleet has returned from Keeper space. Operation Homecoming was a success." The children rushed to the windows. In the distance, they could see the fleet emerging from FTL. Alliance ships escorting thousands of refugee vessels. The Dominion's grip on the Keeper homeworld had finally been broken. Later that evening, Lyra and Mary stood in the station's memorial garden, a peaceful space where plants from hundreds of worlds grew together. They watched their homeworld's sun appear as a bright star in the artificial sky. "Did you ever think, when we were running away that day, that we'd end up here?" Mary asked. Lyra touched her daughter's antenna gently. "No, I only hoped we would survive. Instead, we found something better than survival." Commander Lee, now showing signs of gray hair, joined them in the garden. "The reports from your homeworld are good. The restoration teams are already rebuilding the libraries. Though I hear they're adding some new sections about human history. The archives need updating," Mary agreed. "Our old entries about humans were rather incomplete." A group of children ran past them. Human, Keeper, Rithian, and former Dominion playing together. They were using Mary's memory games combined with human sports, creating something entirely new. "That's the real victory," Lee said, watching them. "Not the battles we won, but this. Different species growing up together, learning from each other. The Dominion tried to rule through fear. We're building something that will last through friendship." The garden's peace was briefly interrupted by a small commotion. A Keeper child had fallen and scraped her knee. Before any adults could react, her human and Dominion friends were helping her up, one getting a medical kit while the other used Keeper calming techniques they'd learned in Mary's class. "Mother," Mary said softly, "remember when you told me knowledge survives through adaptation?" Lyra nodded. "I think humanity taught us that people survive the same way. By adapting, by helping each other, by becoming something new together." As night fell on the station, lights from thousands of windows created constellations of their own. Each light represented a story similar to theirs. Beings who had come seeking mercy and found not just sanctuary, but a new way of living. The desperate flight of a mother and daughter had led to the transformation of the galaxy. Not through conquest or fear, but through the simple, powerful act of humans choosing to help those in need. "We should head home," Lyra said finally. "We are home," Mary replied, watching the stars. "We all are."